Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about some of the different things going on in the recruiting world and some of the different things the scouts in the NFL are looking for, and it could just inform your decision of who's going to win a national title. It sounds like defensive tackles and safeties are more important than they ever have been, so if your team feels good about those two positions, you might just have a shot at the national title. But let's get into segment 3 here and let's talk about the biggest leap that needs to be taken for title contenders from the 2023 season. So these are people that will compete this season, not necessarily just 2023 contenders, but what leap they need to take, what thing needs to change for them to really be successful this upcoming season. And the first one is one that frankly might already be fixed, if I'm being totally honest with you. The Alabama O-line play has to be a ton better. There's no two ways about that. This is what kept Jalen Milroe from walking into the end zone in Pasadena and sending Alabama to the national title. Caden Proctor got absolutely blown up on that play, and Jalen Milroe had absolutely nowhere to go. There were a number of different things wrong with that play, but that was the number one. When you have an offensive line that gets absolutely destroyed on a play, you got no shot. That's just the reality. So that can't happen again. I think Alabama fans fully understand that this is going to be a run-first offense and a very run-heavy offense, and they're going to have to make sure that that offensive line is ready. Now, the good news is they have a lot of really good players on this offensive line. I think the only real worry is that left tackle position, but you look in, or not left tackle, right tackle position, excuse me, but you look at the interior and it's ridiculous. Tyler Booker is the guy that I think is one of the most pure athletic guys in the entire country and is going to be an absolute monster for many years on Sundays. You have Parker Brailsford coming in from Washington, has to make Bama fans feel a little bit better about the snaps that they're going to get in the comparative to last year. You have Jaden Roberts on the other side of things. It's going to be dominant on the interior. I feel fairly confident about that. Maybe there's a little bit of worry about Parker Brailsford getting along the way that you need him to, but overall, I'm not worried by any means. The duo they have at guard is probably the best in the entire country, and when you add someone like Parker Brailsford that was the center of the Joe Moore Award-winning O-line a year ago, I don't necessarily think you have to worry. So the big time worry is Elijah Pritchett taking over for J.C. Latham at right tackle. That's the one that everyone is watching and will definitely be one that could hurt them in the long run. Overall, this looks like a really, really good offensive line. It looks like one that if it was an issue last year, it's not going to be one this year. And it needs to not be an issue because Jalen Milroe needs more time. If he's going to be successful, he could have made all the strides in the world and be a really, really good quarterback in practice and throwing against air and feeling really good. If that offensive line can't block, he's not going to be able to do anything, plain and simple. So that offensive line needs to take a step forward. Obviously, the offensive tackles need to be the big part of that, but overall, it looks like a really good unit, one of the top in the country, so I'm not overly worried about that, but do need to take that step forward from 2023. Ole Miss is kind of the same vibe. It's line of scrimmage play, more broadly line of scrimmage play. The offensive line is not where you want it to be. Just overall, they have 3 guys coming in as portal entries that will likely be starters. 2 guys coming in from Washington, Nate Kalepo and Julius Ballou, and then you have Diego Pounds over at left tackle. It sounds like it could be Julius Ballou at the right tackle position and Nate Kalepo at left guard. Definitely will be a really interesting thing to watch. Overall, this offensive line was just not good last year, and it kept them from, honestly, they could have made the SEC title. They could have done a lot more last year, but that offensive line did not give Jackson Dart the time to dice up defenses the way that he is absolutely capable of being. So I think this is a really talented group. I think they did a great job upgrading. Overall, I don't feel great about this unit right now if on the offensive side of the ball, but I think the talent is there and it will definitely come along as the season gets underway. Then you have the defensive side of the ball, and you got a huge boost adding that guy right there, Walter Nolan, a very, very talented player. Princely Emmanuel through the portal as well. Huge Chris Hardy as well. They did a great job filling this big-time hole. J.J. Pegues and Jared Ivey are the veterans there that will have to make big-time plays. It feels like they upgraded a ton. It feels like the talent, or I know the talent level is a lot higher than it was a year ago, and they feel like they have the guys to make some big-time plays. Everything's got to come together, as we all know, but definitely will be one of those things that it'll be kind of a fun case study of you have O-line problems, you have D-line problems. Can you fix them in one offseason? It'll be a very interesting thing to watch, and Oxford might be the best example, other than Boulder, Colorado, for this upcoming season. Notre Dame needs players on the outside. This is the worst kept secret in college football at this point. Notre Dame needs more wide receivers, and they did a good job filling that need through the portal. Chris Mitchell coming in from FIU is absolutely huge, a very, very talented player that likely will be the wide receiver one this year for this team. You also have Bo Collins coming in from Clemson, definitely helps this rotation. Jaden Thomas is getting big time reviews from fall camp, and I think Jaden Greathouse is someone that frankly, I think has the highest ceiling of anyone in that room. He just happens to be a sophomore while some others are seniors. So I think that guy is very, very talented. Expect a big time leap from him. It does really help that they do have Mitchell Evans on the outside. It does help that Mitchell Evans is one of the best tight ends in the country. And although you definitely need more from the wide receiver group, that definitely takes a little bit off their shoulders as well. Overall, you look at the group, it's a much more talented group. There's no two questions. It is night and day more talented than it was a year ago at that wide receiver group. Riley Leonard is a more than capable passer, probably not quite as good as Sam Hartman was a year ago, but I think the O-line could be a little bit better this year, although the tackle positions are getting me a little bit scared right about now. It'll be one of those things that a lot of this will depend on the O-line. A lot of this will depend on how good Riley Leonard is. But at the end of the day, when you have difference makers on the outside, just getting him the ball and letting him play is obviously a very, very fun thing and something Notre Dame has not had in quite some time. Moving on to Utah, it's just health or depth at quarterback. It's really that simple. Cam Rising, we've talked about this 10,000 different times, if I'm being totally honest, but Cam Rising is about as important to his team as any quarterback is across the country. And it's for a number of different reasons. We saw what happened last year, which is a huge reason, obviously. But this kid is remarkably talented. He makes every right play. And the guys behind him, at least last year, were good. You know, Bryson Barnes made some plays, Nate Johnson made some plays, but neither of them did what you needed them to do on a consistent basis. Now, I do think they did a good job kind of filling a depth piece that they needed here in adding Sam Heward from Washington, a very good pickup, a guy that was a very highly touted recruit, can really throw the ball around the field, and might be a little bit better of an option than what they had a year ago as far as backups go. But at the end of the day, you look at this team, they go as far as Cam Rising goes, plain and simple. They go as far as that guy is on the field, and if he's healthy, they're more than fine. If he's not healthy, they might be in a little bit of trouble. I think the depth is a little bit better than a year before, but at the end of the day, it comes down to health. If this guy is on the field, this is one of the more dangerous teams in the country and absolutely can be a playoff team. If he's not, then I would be shocked if they were a playoff team. I'll just leave it at that for the time being. But let's move on to Penn State. And the biggest thing here is just composure. It's kind of a hard thing to pin down, obviously, but if anyone's been watching Penn State over the last couple of years, you've seen what they do in big games. They shrink. They pretty much crumble under the pressure, and one team looks like they know exactly what they want to do. Penn State is not that team. So they definitely have a couple of games this year that could pose that trouble. Ohio State coming to town obviously is going to be huge. Going to LA to play USC is not going to be easy. And even in week one in Morgantown, which is another one we'll talk about a little bit later in the show, but definitely will be a really interesting thing. Drew Aller is obviously the biggest piece here. When your quarterback is composed, everyone else feels a little bit better about the day. So it'll be definitely really interesting to watch that. I think when you look at the games in the past, it's been a lot of that. It's been a lot of Ohio State fans, or Ohio State players, all over Penn State players. It's been a lot of dominance at the line of scrimmage, just a lot of not enough physicality from a team that absolutely has the guys to be that physical. So I think that's the big thing for Penn State, just walk into these environments not afraid. Walk into these environments knowing that you absolutely can win those games. And it's not to say that they're actively walking in afraid and chattering their teeth by any means, but it is to say when they're playing in those games, there is a noticeable difference between those two teams. And a lot of it just comes down to composure in big-time moments. So I think that's the big-time thing for Penn State. If Drew Aller can be comfortable in that pocket, if they can not panic when they go down by 7 late in the third quarter, they're going to be more than fine. They're going to be a really, really good team. But if they can make that leap and really make a big-time leap there, this is a playoff team and a very dangerous team this upcoming year. Finally, we'll get to Florida State, and it's just offensive consistency. I think you look at the 2023 season, they did so many incredible things on the offensive side of the ball. There's no two ways about that. They did incredible, incredible things with some really good athletes. But also, you look at a couple of the games, mainly Clemson and Florida are the two games that I'm really zeroing in on here. The two games, Florida and Clemson are the ones that I really want to touch on, and the huge thing there was Jordan Travis had to make a couple of big time plays. He was the guy that, maybe the line would break down and he would make a spectacular play with his legs, or would stretch the play out and then throw downfield to one of the talented wide receivers they had. So they had guys. It was one of those things that Jordan Travis had to make some plays that DJ just can't necessarily make at the same clip. And that's something that they're just going to have to be a little bit better about, is they can't just rely on this quarterback to make all of the big time plays they need to make. He's more of a facilitator, not a game changer as Jordan Travis is. So you look at that, but then you also look, they need some help at the wide receiver position. I think when you look at last year, they had plenty of big time players at that wide receiver position and made plenty of big time plays, but they were a little bit fewer and further between. In that Clemson game, they were coming down the stretch, and it took a couple of ridiculous plays from Keon Coleman down the stretch of that game for them to win that one. So it's overall one of those things that I don't necessarily think they're bad offensively by any means. In fact, they're one of the better offenses in the entire country. I would just love to see it, down after down, drive after drive. They're able to move the ball more effectively. I think the run game is going to help them a lot in that respect this upcoming year. So I do think they're going to be in a fine place offensively, but if they can find that consistency week over week, if they can make sure that they're playing roughly the same level of football on that side of the ball every single week, I think they're going to be in really, really good shape this upcoming year. But overall, there's a ton of different leaps that need to be taken for these teams. Those are not remotely the end-all be-all by any means, but we'll probably continue that throughout the week, add a couple more teams tomorrow. That might wrap it up. We'll decide after that probably, but definitely will be a really interesting thing to watch this year. Can they make that leap? And if they don't, does that mean they have no shot at the title, or can they overcome it? It'll definitely be a fun thing to watch. But let's take our third break here, and when we come back, we're going to do a little bit of fall camp intel, break down some of the scrimmages that happened around the country, but also just some things we forgot to get to last week. So we'll definitely break that down right after this, so stick with us.